his country. Oh, where'd he go? Oh no, where'd you go? Wait, are you still there? It says, why'd you get off? Oh, where are you? You got to jump back on, dude.
Yeah,
Where'd you go?
ruin the
Oh, Jack left. He didn't say goodbye. Oh, thank you, Jack. I was like, where is he? Josh Poshby Schloshin.
I'm alienating a bunch of bears from their right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That's how I see it.
Posh, did you make sense of any of this?
I think what he's trying to say is there's this misconception that has arisen, especially in the West, with then again, especially squared with the advent of Protestantism, which is this legalistic view of the idea of law. I did a stream on the idea of justice, which was completely, basically identical with the idea of order. There was no idea of justice as, you've got individual rights and yada yada. That comes with the Enlightenment and Protestantism, this individualization. Oh dear. But back to that. Similarly, the Torah, for example, is translated as the law, as lex in Latin by Saint Jerome. So we have retroactively read the idea of legalism in the modern sense of, your judiciary, these people in robes, and if you're in Britain, in wigs as well.
Is this guy's voice real?
It is.
I almost said unfortunately, but honestly, it's
no. I said fortunately. I said the same exact thing. I almost said.
He sounds like a narrator. Yeah. He's like reading a story to us.
He can convince you of anything, by the way, with that. It's really dangerous.
By the way, I'm here to support Team Javier Milei. Go Argentina.
Oh, gay. Magay, more like. Look,
would you like us to turn our cameras towards walls so you can kiss them?
Which one of us would you like to destroy your libertarian view?
Afuera, with all these communists. Afuera.
He is funny, but he doesn't look real.
He looks like a dance. He looks like one of the long lost judges of You Think You Can Dance or something. He looks like he should be on that show. That is. Yeah, good for you, Posh.
Nice.
God bless you. You're protected.
So what's the topic since Jack left?
Well, I've been debating against Ivan about rights and the conception of rights, and he's trying to figure out a way from an Orthodox perspective, which I agree you can try to navigate, and for the sake of language, use colloquially the term rights, but it certainly has no relevance to what we call rights.
Humans have three rights. You have the right to free will.
No.
You have the right to...
Let him go. Let him go.
Hold on. Let me say it and then argue with it. You have the right to free will. You have the right to be taxed and the right to death. And those are the three human rights everyone has.
Okay, wait. Say those again.
Free will,
taxes,
number one.
And free will. Okay.
Taxes,
how do you know someone has,
and then death.
How would you determine someone has or doesn't have free will? That there is an action? Is it like movement, choice, capability? What would it be in that case?
As long as an agent has more than one choice, they have free will.
Okay, so if I shackle you with force and nobody's in sight to help you, and
I can gnaw my arm off and free myself from your shackles.
Okay, I'm just saying, I'm making sure that we agree that even if you can't gnaw you can't break free, do you still have free will? Even if you can't break free.
I can struggle against your shackles, even if it doesn't accomplish anything. I'm still free willing my resistance.
Okay, we agree, but the fact that you have something, I'm just wondering, why would you call it a right versus a capability?
I mean, if there's any definition of the word right, it's those three things I've laid out. I'm
just asking you, why would you call it that in that instance? Being able to, you're all shackled, right? You can choose to either struggle or not struggle. Let's make that a very basic binary. You're saying from your libertarian free will, you have the ability of two different choices at least. I'm saying, correct. Why would you call the capability itself a right? Why wouldn't you just say you have a capability?
You can call it tomato. I can call it tomato. We're still talking about the same thing.
Seems like more of a prerequisite for rights than a consequence of them.
You were listing some constraints. Constraints does not negate free will. It just minimizes the amount of free will someone has. But as long as you have more than one choice, you have free will. Period.
We're talking about whether you have the right to it. Why would you add if we all agree that based on how we defined it, you do have free will based on how you defined it. I'm asking you, why would you smuggle in the term right if it's totally sufficient to just say you have free will?
Because all humans are born universally with access to this thing. Therefore, it is a right inherited.
So it's a metaphysical claim that you're making that God gave you these rights and they're inalienable. That's your claim.
Indeed.
But that's
Correct.
also a potential for violence and imposing one's own will.
Indeed.
Yeah, well,
correct.
Whether we're not particularly good at it is completely separate. So why is that not one of the rights?
Right. The other
Impose
question
our
here,
will.
Justin Henley asked, do you have the ability, if the ability of your will is to be able to choose one or the other, can you ever choose not to have the right to free will?
Yes.
You can
Which
choose
is
to
still
not
your
have free will. What?
Yeah.
How do you
You can
choose
you
to
can
not have free
end
will?
the simulation at any time in which the free will test will end.
Oh, you're saying you're making synonymous just existing with free will. I'm saying if you define free will with the ability to choose between two different things while you're existing, right?
We could presume free will carries over into the next life, but we don't have enough
Okay,
information
no, that's
to
not the
make
answer.
that claim.
No, that's not the question. The question is, I'm asking you a simple question. Based on your view, free will is the ability, right, to have at least two different choices.
All you need
While
is
you're alive.
more than one choice is the definition of free will.
One choice now.
More
well,
than one.
Okay,
You have to
well,
always have more
Two
than
choices,
one.
because one choice
two
is
or
no
more.
choice.
Gotcha.
If God made you a robot and you only had one choice to do exactly what he said, you don't have free will. You're just a robot.
I understand that. I'm just wondering from your
Bloody
perspective, like
Calvinists.
if you can't,
Calvinists are dumb.
this is the question I'm having. I'm not asking whether you have the choice to end your free will. I'm saying while you're alive, if free will means you have the ability to make at least more than one choice, I'm asking you, can you choose to not be able to make one or more choices? Not choose to end the capability. Can you choose not to have the capability?
You can choose to live in denial and delusion, but that doesn't negate free will. You still have the free will to come out of that denial and delusion at any time you want. So no,
Wait,
you
wait,
can't
you don't-
escape free will.
You're not a simulation theorist, right? I just didn't get that last
It's possible that we're in a simulation. A physical simulation in a physical universe.
Are there more than one choice?
Yeah, are there more than one
There's the
choice?
choice to exit the physical simulation anytime you want, but you may not appreciate the results of that choice. So
Justin says for
Is
$5.
it called voting?
Yeah, let me read this right. Let me grant that you cannot separate free will from existence, but you didn't choose to exist. So game over, not a right. That's interesting too. Like where do you take it in the process of being created that you didn't have a right? But then again, there would be no you before creation, maybe would be the answer. There was no choice because there was no you.
Just because you didn't choose to enter into the simulation doesn't mean you don't have free will. You still have free will. You just didn't have the free will choice to enter the simulation. That doesn't negate it either. So that's fallacious.
So wait, why are you a libertarian?
Because I'm intelligent, I'm educated and enlightened.
Oh God.
I'm one of those good and intelligent people that has a content.
Are you a Christian?
Of course. That's the best kind of libertarian.
Oh boy.
Protestant.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
I'm a conservatarian for the record.
So can I ask you, what's your view
Hold
on public
on.
indecency?
Let's not skip over that. Conservatarian.
A paleo-conservative, a paleo-libertarian.
A conservatarian is a Christian capitalist libertarian. You have to have all three of those pillars in order to join our cool club.
Yeah. You think people should respect social norms?
Hold on, Ivan. Hold on a second. Posh, what were you going to say?
I'd like to ask, so why would you make the distinction? Is the conservative part of that portmanteau. Is that personal, or is it something you would apply?
No, it's society wide. In
How would you apply it as a
in a
libertarian?
conservatarian society, Christianity is not required, but it is at least promoted. It's adopted by even non-believers. They accept Christian
What, like a
values.
Do you think?
Cross with
Do you,
the thumbs
let me
up.
ask a really. Let me ask a sharp
ahead.
question. Should abortion be illegal?
Of course, it's murder.
So yes.
Yes, in all
Okay.
cases.
How about public masturbation?
That's free will. So
So a Christian who allows public masturbation, that's your cool group. Hold on.
define public. Where does the public begin?
On top of your private property, on the roof, adjacent to a school.
So as long as I'm on my own private property,
Adjacent
I'm
to a
free to-
kindergarten.
to obey the
Christian-
rule of law,
Because
as
you're
long as
smart.
I'm not murdering anyone or
Okay, cool.
stealing or
So your
killing or
Christian,
lying.
so your Christian philosophy, Christian that's based because you're smart, permits public masturbation in front of children.
First of all, what are
say
children
yes.
doing on my private property?
No, they're next to you. They're in view of your private property.
Right. And so if they don't want to, if the parents of these
They don't
children
want
don't
to
want them witnessing
on their property.
masturbation,
Yeah,
Wait a
move
second.
your
build
school.
private.
Wait a second.
You're
Hold on.
degenerate with extra steps, man.
They should build
Yeah,
privacy fences to block out the things they don't want their children seeing in the world.
So block
That's
out
not
all kids
my
from the
job.
world. Block out.
That's
all
your
children.
job as
Oh,
the
so,
parent.
So okay, so your kids, right? So in your view, a Christian view, you're raising kids in a society that they need to be hidden from.
That's up to the parents to decide, not the government.
But it's perfectly consistent with your view that the public become a festering field of degeneracy. It's completely consistent, right?
On your private
pri-
property, if you want
No,
to, as long as you're
everybody-
not
no.
violating the rule of law. As
I'm
long
just
as you're not
saying-
violating the rule of law.
Well,
you're
the
good.
rule of law is dictated by informed by what, in your view?
You are welcome to
Dude,
appeal to your local
dude, I asked-
magistrate.
Listen. In your
I'm
Christian
answering your
view,
question.
in your Christian
I'm
view, are
sorry.
the laws
Okay.
informed by Christianity or just libertarianism?
That's the theory. Hopefully, all of the laws are guided by Christianity. So
So okay,
any
No,
so,
none of
any
them are.
deviation from that is a failure to understand the conservatarian principle.
okay. Let me ask you another question. Okay,
Which so far
Okay.
is abortion
Okay.
should be
let me
banned.
read that. Yeah, abortion. should be
Right.
banned. Okay.
Abortion is
And that's
murder. Masturbation is not a sin. Touching yourself is not a sin.
Wait, what?
What?
Masturbation's not a wait.
You're
What?
not a Christian, man.
Oh, come on, dude.
That's
Hold on.
literally.
I'm
me
gonna
read-
need some. I'm
hold on,
gonna need
let
some
me read this.
scripture
Let me-
on
hold on,
that
let me-
where
no.
touching yourself is a sin.
You're right.
Touching yourself.
You're
Stop are you touching yourself now?
Hold
Yeah,
on, dude.
I'm touching
Hold
my
on a second.
knee.
Stop.
I'm
Let me read this chat. Justin, $5.
comfortably
Clearly
seated.
not intelligent. You claim simulation, your free will simulation, as well as existence. Can't prove abortion is killing. Non-simulation. That's true. You can't have simulation and abortion is murder at the same time. But here we go. The question here, Pasha's
Yeah,
going
you
to get
can
some
because
scripture
sapient
for.
beings can be in a
I have a-
in a simulation.
I understand. Listen. From your view, if I have a grandma and there's like a small family, there's just me and dad and maybe my sister Becky. If grandma's about to die and grandma is a libertarian like you, and she's all, you know what, guys? You guys should rent my body out when I'm gone for a week. It'd still be good. You heat it up a little bit, and it'll be good for rental. Okay, she signs off. The family signs off. You can't demonstrate any harm, right? From your view, is that permissible under your libertarian view to rent out grandma for a week?
What do you mean rent out? Like
Rent
for
her
what
out her
purpose?
corpse for whatever people want to do to it. It's fully consented.
For like fertilizer for gardens? Sure. All for it.
No sexual acts. It's a grandma in a room. You could rent it out like a brothel for dead people. Is that permissible under your, as long as there's consent, is that permissible under your system?
It wouldn't be under my system, but see, there's no black and white version of conservataria's laws. So, for example, if I were to ask, by the way, is everyone in here a Christian?
Yeah.
There's
Well,
three. There's
Three
two
at
Christians,
least.
and I'm a
Two
catechumen.
Christians. What about the
Yeah.
third guy? Are you also a
Catechumen.
Christian?
I'm
No.
on my way.
The fourth
The deep
that's
voice
missing
guy.
is you, man. You're
Papa
Yeah.
Corner, are you
Post
Christian?
cradle Orthodox.
Okay, so we got 3 Christians. Okay, so
Yeah.
what are Christian laws? Tell me right now, what are the Christian laws that all men should live by? Go ahead, list them off for me.
No eating strangled animals, no sexual immorality, no sacrifices to idols.
Eating strangled animals.
Yeah.
Christians aren't allowed to eat strangled animals.
That's literally what the council in Acts 15 decides is the barest of minimums.
So
for,
if
Gentiles.
one of your hamburgers got caught on a fence and he strangled himself to death, and then you ate a McDonald's hamburger because the cow strangled to death, you're committing a sin? Is that what you're telling me?
There's a difference between an animal getting into an accident and strangling them. This
Man, there's going to be a
goes
bunch of you
back-
guys in hell. Anyways,
No,
that's not Christian law. That's
wait,
that's
wait,
a
you're-
Jewish
you're-
law, by the
you're-
way.
You gotta let him
Christians
answer.
aren't to abide by all the
Wait.
Mosaic laws.
Acts
Those are for
15.
Jews.
No, listen to what Pasha's saying. You're not listening.
Acts 15, Book of Acts of the Apostles, New Testament stuff.
What did Jesus say about the unclean
Wait,
animals?
hold on,
and which
no,
ones
hold
we're
I
on
have
a
a
allowed to
second.
eat?
I have a
Wait,
question.
no, hold on a second. What did he just say? Are you gonna at least be corrected and go, I stand corrected?
We
or
can
just
we can
move?
read it if you want to. I'll Google it. Acts 15. What? Go ahead.
I can't tell you the
New
verse numbers.
Testament. He quoted the New Testament.
Yeah, you.
So it's not
I need the
Jewish.
scripture. Acts 15. What?
Bloody hell! Now I have to read more.
Well,
This
You
is
can't just
against
say
my
Acts
right to
15. You have to
Wait a
like
second.
either quote the scripture or
wait,
you know.
wait a
tell
second.
me
Are
the-
we listening to you on what law should be given that you permit public?
No, I was
masturbation
asking
for
you
children?
guys. Remember, you're supposed to tell me what the Christian laws are universally so that we can create a government in which all citizens are to abide by these quote unquote Christian laws that all Christians agree upon. So go ahead and list them off for me so I can
What
create
what
a
does it matter if
constitution
they
for
agree
you.
or not?
Wait, if Christianity was true, wouldn't you admit that if we reduced the laws and knew them, we would be enforcing them, or no?
So if we were going to be practical about this discussion, I would start with the universally agreed upon laws. We all agree that lying, killing, stealing, stuff like that, that's definitely Christian fundamental laws that we all should agree upon, correct?
But not
The Ten
masturbation.
The 10 Commandments.
Got you, but not
You agree
masturbating
that's a good
in
place
front
to
of
start?
children?
Well,
But-
the problem is, I don't know for certain that you can interpret the Ten Commandments correctly. Like, for example,
I said
there
as
are
a bare
commandments-
minimum. This
No, no,
the
no, no,
starting
no,
point.
no. But as a bare minimum, I don't know. For example, how you interpret the commandment not to make idols. For example, like Protestants.
Oh, that's
interpret that-
easy. Do you know what an
No,
idol
no,
is?
no. It's
Uh,
not easy. Please,
Acts
come on.
15, verse 19.
So idols are
Oh,
these
sorry,
like
29.
statues and stuff that people bow down to and worship, and that's why
So-
they're called idols because
if
they
we put-
idolize them.
So if we put big fat burgers and naked women on billboards, that's not an idol, because people don't bow down.
So
to
for
it.
example, if you went to a church and you saw a bunch of people bowing down to a statue of a man or something like that and
is the
worshiping
bowing
and
what makes it
praising
an
them,
idol?
that would be an idol.
No, it wouldn't.
It wouldn't. What is an idol?
And
Can you
I'm
define
Eastern
an idol
Orthodox.
for
We
me?
don't use
What's an idol?
statuary in worship.
You got to listen.
An idol is tends to be three-dimensional. It doesn't have to be a statue per se. It almost always was, but you can have totem poles and
Rock
different types of
lickers.
representation. yeah,
Yeah.
jaw breakers.
Can it be like pictures and stuff?
No,
Pictures?
it
No.
literally
it can
can't
be-
be pictures.
It can be alcoholism as well.
Can
You
it be
have
an
idol.
idea,
No,
like
no,
a
no,
thing
no,
like
no, no, no,
money or
No,
fame
no,
or
No.
pride or anything like that?
Idols are if I told you a church, well, can a hospital be a church? Well, no, it's a hospital. Then it wouldn't be a hospital, it would be a church. It's a technical term. Can a chip manufacturing facility be a church? So Ed, and Eddie. So an idol is a technical term in paganism and therefore in the Old Testament. It is a statue you build
Fascinating.
and you ritually indwell with a spirit, and then you interact with it. This is the interface between you and that spirit, like the golden calf with the Israelites in the desert while Moses was away. or you
What
look
about
up
Vagine,
any pagan
Josh?
temple ever.
What about
Sorry?
Vagine dodging a cow? Is that considered idol worship or
Depends. Is
almost?
it made of gold? No. So that's why I say we use the term like idol even to condemn things like money or love of money, the root of all evil. But that's sort of you take the principle and then apply it.
The fundamentals, yeah. That's why
Hold
they're
on,
called
hold on, Vagine. Hold on,
fundamentals.
Vagine's talking. Someone paid for Vagine to talk.
Go ahead, Vagine.
Holy Lord of Sabbath, you're a libertarian, Protestant, simulation believer. Next, you're gonna tell me you're Canadian. Do the world a favor and swallow your own head.
Take my
you-
wife,
Bob,
please.
Can I borrow some Bob chat money?
Are you? Thank you. Are you Canadian?
I just flew in from the coast, and boy, are
But
my
you are-
arms tired.
Okay. Sorry.
Not
Where were
from,
you guys?
like,
I'm not Canadian, no.
Wisconsin or
I'm
somewhere close
American.
enough. Yeah, but if you're like from a bordering state, you're very compromised.
I am from one of the states of the United America. That's correct.
Yeah. I think you're hiding from what I'm trying to say. Nevertheless, I'm joking around. So back to our idea of idols. We use.
By the way,
this-
if we're going to take this long to discuss the 10 Commandments, we're going to be here for a while. So
No,
those are
I
supposed to
just
be
have-
the fundamentals that
I
everyone
have a question.
understands.
What defines public and private? And is there any like ambiguity about it?
Private's when I own the land, and public is when everybody owns the land. So
And who determines what is ownable or not?
in Conservataria, the question would arise like, why does everybody?
Conservataria.
Yeah, this is the beautiful country I'm teaching you
Yeah,
guys.
Bertaria, but okay.
So the question would arise, we have this little patch of land out here. Who owns it and why? Does everyone in the room own it? Do we all have like 1/5 ownership of it or something? Like who determines that?
Okay, that's a good question, Ivan. I have a question that's exactly on point with this. Do you believe from a libertarian in what is it called? Libertaria? What is it? What's your place called? Conservataria. Gotcha. So in that world, right, in that country, do you have the freedom of movement?
Of course.
Okay, if everybody
Definitely on your
owns-
own private
hold on.
property.
Hold on. If everybody
ahead.
owns all of the land privately, do you have the freedom of movement?
So like I said, if we all agree that there's going to be private land like roads and town centers or whatever and stuff like that, that's fine. Then no one owns it. And then because everybody owns it. So it's just free open land.
No. Listen. Let me make it more clear for you. Let's take the richest person, right? Let's say Conservataria was on the coast, right? You guys secured the richest.
I call dibs on
Conservataria-
California, by the way.
Yeah, California. Let's take California.
You can have it.
Yeah. So let's
I
take
love
California.
it.
Hold on. Let me set it up. You're the richest conservatard and you buy up California, the whole coast.
Yes, the whole state. Okay.
You just said people have the right to free movement. If you own the whole coast, which is totally consistent with your view,
not if I own it.
I understand that. If
Go
you
ahead.
own it, nobody
Mhm.
has a right to free movement, right?
Correct.
On
not
the
on
coast.
my property. Correct.
Okay, let's say you own the entirety of the land where these people live. Nobody has the freedom of movement, right?
Correct.
Okay, let's take a town where you own a building, I own a building, and there's 20
Mhm.
buildings and they're all owned by different people.
Sure.
And someone owns the road. But they don't own the building.
So this is where co-ops, corporations, all those sort of things come into play.
No, I didn't say what's no,
it's-
dude. I
go
didn't
ahead.
ask for your conflict resolution. I asked for your principle here. If there's 20 people who own 20 different buildings on a strip, but the person who owns the road doesn't own any of the buildings. They actually live far away in Serbia. Posh owns the road. Do you have the freedom to travel through the road to shop at all your buildings and your shops?
If the owner granted access to the public, then yes, I do.
Unless Posh says you can enter this road to all the shops.
Correct.
You can't, right?
And that's why it's called private property, because people own
Gotcha.
shit.
So Casimir says this is forestalling. and he says that it means you cannot own a property that blocks access to virgin land or another property. That would be, escaped me, false embordering, null and void. So he invented a word, forestalling. He didn't invent it. He invented it as
Casimir disagrees with the libertarian, basically, which is basically
That's fine. He can
libertarianism.
live in a socialist authoritarian countries. There's plenty of those going around.
Wait. So there's no
people?
man's land? Is that what I'm hearing?
Can you own people? Like, can you buy a person?
No.
You can voluntarily enter into exchange of goods and services. And so if someone agrees to work for you for an exchange in money, goats, sheep, I don't care, whatever, that's voluntary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Forever. Could it be forever?
That's it. If they voluntarily agree to those terms, yes, they can.
Okay, so when can you agree to that?
When you don't have any property, man, and like you
No,
need,
hold on,
you
hold
need
on,
to
Ivan.
buy-
Hold on,
sound
hold on.
mind and body, and you're capable of entering into a contract.
Yeah, you didn't. That doesn't tell
Can
me
we
when that
consent
is.
to have public pooping in conservative
Most civilized people agree that's around 18 years old, but
That's
we
true.
can debate that.
Hey, I have a question for you.
just said-
Let's say Sorry, Posh, go ahead. I'll ask him this question after.
You just preambulated it with most reasonable people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's how
taking
societies are created and civilizations are.
Plenty of
formed.
societies were created without any concept of
Rights
consent.
implies a duty on everyone beside the right bearer. There's no duty on the right bearer except where others are concerned. Rights are distinct from gifts as they can only be lost by a dereliction of duty by another.
Thank you, George Washington Barr, for a very generous of you. Yeah, someone asked about poop, which is a really good point. If someone owns the road, Posh owns the road, and he actually rents the road to people who don't have toilets, and they get to shit in the road, right? At what point can you, as the private owner of the adjacent building to the road, step in and do something about the shit? Because, shit piling up, it can be a massive problem. But however, in your conservatardia, it's actually not a problem in principle. It's actually just a lot of shit in between all of your private properties that
Yes,
the owner
stop
doesn't
cleaning
need,
my road.
doesn't need to do anything, right?
If I was foolish enough not to become a shareholder of the road that has access
I didn't
to
ask
my
you if you ate
business,
breakfast.
that's my own fault.
I didn't
I
ask
agree.
you if you ate breakfast this morning. I asked you
I would
in
be hungry
principle,
if I didn't eat it.
in principle, it's consistent to have people own private property and actually fill it with feces.
Again, either I'm a shareholder of the road, either I own part of it or some agreement with it that it must be maintained clean and free access to the public or whatever. Or if I have
What's that?
zero,
Don't you mean
if
the
I have
private?
zero ownership of it, then I am
the
at
public?
the whim of the owner, and
Wait, what's
that's
the-
called capitalism.
Okay, hold on.
Can
Let me ask
you do like experiment on viruses and like deadly diseases in your backyard?
You can do anything you want on your private property so long as you obey the rule of law and you don't steal or kill or lie to any of your neighbors.
Can
And
you
so
inoculate?
Wait, why
you
does
can
the law?
inoculate
self-destruct
yourself?
as much as you want. That's
Why
a
does the
free will
law? Why
choice.
does the law apply to people in the private property?
The law applies to all citizens of the country. And
I
so
didn't ask, dude. Listen to me. Listen to the words coming out.
you don't have to be a landowner to be a
Look,
citizen.
dude. You're not
You're still
listening.
subject to the law.
Yeah, I'm asking you. Why is it I'm subject to any law on my private property?
Just because you're on your private property doesn't make you free from law. You're not free to
Dude, do you
kill and
understand?
steal or anything.
Dude, I know you're reasserting the law on private property. I'm saying, under your view, why is it that you can do anything on your private property except for things that are illegal?
Because we have the rule of law, retard. It's funny how you keep
Dude,
making fun
dude.
of me as a retard when you're
No,
describing the country
Listen,
you
you're
live in.
dude. I just ended.
This
your
is the country
argument.
we live in,
Look,
retard.
look. Can you do anything? You can do anything.
and provide hotels for illegal immigrants. That's where we live.
Except you guys are arguing for more
Look,
socialist authoritarian regimes because
dude,
our
listen,
original country had too
Spurg,
much freedom, and
authoritarian,
too much
yes.
private ownership,
Listen, Spurg. Listen. You can do
and
anything
too much
you want.
morality.
you
Put me
can
in
do
charge of
anything.
immigration. I'll handle it in 3 days.
You just
And
said you can
then
do anything.
The roads
do
I
will
think
not
we
be
should
clean yet.
deport all the socialist authoritarians
Well,
for a
deport them,
start.
to hell.
Wait, isn't it? Wait. How is it not authoritarian to have law on private property?
Or North Korea. That's
Hey,
that's close enough
listen.
to hell.
How is it not authoritarian to have some sort of uniform law that's imposed on people on their?
Oh, that's
private
easy
properties?
because just because you're a libertarian doesn't make you an anarchist. See, what you retards don't understand is
Look, I didn't
libertarians
say
don't
anything
have
about
no
anarchy.
laws. We just
Look,
have small amounts of
Is
laws.
law
A
authoritarian? Yes or-
limited authoritarian.
Hey, listen. Is law on private property a law that is attributed to all private property owners? Is that authoritarian?
Of course, it's the same
So what are you
law
talk-
all citizens.
Okay, so
have to
so how
obey.
how do you determine the threshold of when something is bad authoritarian versus the authoritarian that you're defending right now?
Oh, that's easy. When the government seizes the fruits of your labor and distributes it to the other socialists and
Like when
authoritarians,
it taxes
Dude,
you and it
kind of like
spends
what you're
wherever you
doing
want.
now.
Dude,
No,
and
no,
when
no,
you
no, no.
vote
Let
for
me
your
let me
unit
stop this
party, it
idiot
doesn't make
code.
any difference. That's
Dude,
what you
so
retards are
taxation is
doing.
theft. So taxation is theft.
It is.
Because
It is
whenever-
if your taxes aren't represented. How many taxes did you vote
No,
for?
no, dude.
By the
dude,
way,
dude.
I
Can
think
you
it's
listen
Stop with the
to
red
Martin
herring.
and me, which
Dude,
would
you're a
explain
red.
a lot.
You're like a red herring Nerf gun.
Yes.
why won't you answer any of my questions when I answer
Because
all
you're
of
not
your
answering.
questions?
Look, dude. Even the question I just asked you didn't tell me. I asked for a methodology, right? How do you determine when something's too authoritarian as opposed to the authoritarianism that you accept?
When the
When?
centralized
Big
government
time.
has a monopoly on force and disregards your vote or your will,
Hold on.
and
Uses
uses a
take the first
deep
part.
state to control a
Oh,
uniparty
hold
in
on.
order to seize the
Dude,
means of production,
Dude, stop
which is
prattling.
socialism.
Shut up for a second. The first thing you said is enough. Already a contradiction. When the government does what?
It's making you look retarded. That's why
No,
it's
no.
a contradiction.
The total
No,
opposite.
no. You
Stop
you're
making us look
contradicting
retarded.
yourself.
No, dude,
Like-
you can't even follow what you're saying because look, you just said, how do I know? And you said when the government imposes this law, dude, in your view, the government imposes law on the private property, right?
What if people voted to legalize abortion? What would you
Exactly.
do? That's
What if
one
people-
thing you agreed with us.
So one more time. Anarchy means no laws. Libertarian means
democracy?
very small, reasonable rule of law. Like
How
don't
do you have
kill, don't
democracy?
steal, don't
Look,
lie.
hold on. I'm going to take people
It
down.
doesn't mean
much
that
talking.
oligarchs get to rule the country and get to seize
What
your
did
money.
Posh ask you? What did Posh ask you, please? For the love of God, what did he ask you?
I've been answering 3 or 4 different questions all at the
Okay,
same
fair
time.
enough.
So
Fair enough.
one more time.
Let's
Go ahead.
hyper focus.
Okay.
If you said it's all right to have taxes because you need representation, and if a majority of people voted to legalize abortion, and they go via the libertarian route of saying rights over your own body, you can't be forced to undergo medical procedures. And then what are you going to do? How are you going to stop it? This is one thing we agreed on. Abortion is murder. So
Definitely.
a majority of people voted. So do they get to stop paying taxes?
You don't get to vote on rule of law. The rule of law is like the foundations of your
I'm
society.
Wait.
I'm anti-authoritarian, and you don't get to vote on the rule of law.
It's not like a amendment thing where you get to like vote on Wednesday whether or not murdering babies is okay. It's always wrong. Or you have to leave the country.
Jim Bob. So we are trying to establish where the boundary is, and you said governments are fine if they are representing the people. So
Small limited governments, correct? Yes,
that's
now
fine.
you're getting it.
But people have voted on the basis of a libertarian argument, because you're forcing people to undergo medical, not a condition, a process, perhaps. You're saying you have to endure this 9-month commitment, even if it was initiated by someone forcing themselves upon you. Let's not use words that will get the algorithm mad. So you're saying that those people either don't have a right to be represented from their school of thought, or that the government can then force you, maybe they then don't have to pay taxes. Or you're saying there's some divine right by which a certain
if you want my opinion, I think a meritocracy is far superior to a democracy.
To do with this.
It has everything to do with it, because whether
or
not your votes
at lying, one can be
dude, you gotta stop your red
votes,
herring, dude.
Whether or not your votes are represented, you are speaking in terms of a democracy where the majority votes on what the laws are.
And what is
I was making the point that a meritocracy is far superior to a democracy because it doesn't simply matter about popular votes. It matters about intelligent, informed votes.
What's a meritocracy?
Oh shit, dude! Are you really gonna make me?
I want to know what you mean.
A meritocracy is a system based on merit in which the votes of the people are determined upon skill, knowledge, and or ability.
So you're going to have some type of commission that's going to decide who gets the right to vote, how many votes their vote counts.
The same way you have doctors, lawyers, engineers.
So doctors get 3 votes or something.
You have groups of people that determine who's the smart people in the room and who fails.
Right.
I agree.
So you're trying to
Plato's Republic.
What you're trying to do is actually called a technocracy, not a
no, it's a meritocracy.
It's Plato's Republic. It's Plato's Republic, dude. Hold on. Vagine has to talk. This is paid for. Sorry, Vagine.
Lolkov, stop spurging and get back to growing pot in your one of 2 tiny closets. You're libertarian.
Hey man, I like weed.
Shut up, dude. It's a super chat.
You're not based just because you call others slaves to the government. Stop laughing, weirdo. Told Andrew this yesterday. All libertarians are just rhetoric machines.
Red herring and rhetoric, but the point, the problem here, Pasha's pointed at, is that now you have to determine who determines what merit is, and you said the smart people. Now you have to determine who the smart people is.
Yeah,
the smart people.
How did you determine who are the doctors and lawyers and the test givers?
Here's the thing: technocracy means that people with the technical skills get to rule. Meritocracy,
not necessarily technical. It's not always technical skills. There are merits that are more above and beyond
laws regarding medicine are determined by doctors.
There's nuance to law that technical people cannot pass.
Posh, just 1 second. Listen, the question is dodged here. I didn't ask how do you determine someone's a good doctor, because we can do that because that's a skill. That's a technical skill you could actually operate and look at and see if they're actually doing it. There's actually some standard by which you can tell someone's good at a skill. Plumbing, it's electricity. There is a standard there. I asked you, what's the standard for determining who the smart people are? That's a different question than determining who's good at the activity, the technical skill of being a surgeon. That's different. Who determines who the smart people are?
The people who are able to understand methodologies, science, logic, reason, mathematics, that sort of thing. Those are the people that have to start the tests.
So you are this is a technocracy, like Posh said. This is Plato's Republic.
I don't care what you call it. I call it a meritocracy because I know the meaning of it.
Well, it's not a meritocracy.
Then it's a misuse of the term.
Yeah, it's not.
What does meritocracy mean? What have y'all told me?
Meritocracy is not about putting it. Let's contrast it to something else. If you've got like a feudal system, and you get power
by government or the holding of power by people selected on the basis of their ability
to use force. Ability to use force. Listen, look, it's really simple. If I have the ability to use force, right, and that's my skill, to use force to implement my law, how is that not merit?
Yeah.
A technocracy is the government or control of society.
I'm going to mute you if you don't answer my question. I'm going to do it again. I'll unmute you in a second, all right? I'm asking you a direct question right now. If I have the capability, the skill, the know-how, the artillery to be able to, through merit, use force to implement my own secret king society rules, how is that not merit?
The ability to use force is a merit in the realm of military or security, and so you get to be head of the security team.
I just
since you're good at
beheaded
using
you.
force.
I just beheaded you. Look,
Yeah.
it's simple. It's really simple what just happened. You said meritocracy, and you're looking at all these other categories like skilled labor and all this stuff being a smarty pants. I happen to have the skill of completely dominating all those people with force and the threat of force and coercion. That is merit. I can then use my merit to eliminate this meritocracy while also being the highest merit in this system, right? So do you understand the problem here with your system here?
I understand your problem with might makes
Tell me.
right. We're able to solve that problem. It's not that difficult.
So is it not merit to take over other people and eliminate all other merit, and the only merit really that wins is force, right? That's possible under this system of meritocracy. Not
It's
inconsistent,
possible for smart people to enlist the help of people that are good at force to defend their meritocracy. That's
yeah,
right.
and
That's
smart
correct.
people can be extraordinarily authoritarian. So
That's right.
Being smart,
They can also be libertarian if they're really smart. The retards are authoritarian because they need big daddy government to tell them
When
what-
tell me
what
when
to
a liber
think and
hold on,
breathe.
tell me when no, the insults doesn't matter here. The only thing that matters is the accurate description
Who
of
started
reality.
the insults, Jim Bob?
Hold on a second. When is a
some gay guy
libertarian
with like a snail for
when has ever the libertarian taken over the look, dude, when has the libertarian front ever taken over with force the aggressor?
Where's your merit? by
A
the
little
way?
Boston Tea Party back in the United States of America is when we kicked the authoritarian British out of our fucking country. That's
And
when.
replaced it with
A
more
libertarian government called the
Have you
United
heard of the
States
Whiskey
America.
Rebellion?
what? You're not a libertarian, dude.
Have you heard of the Whiskey Rebellion?
Were they authoritarians, Jim Bob? Were we fighting for a bigger authoritarian government during the
rule, look,
independence?
all rule is authoritarian.
No, it's not.
All rule of law is authoritarian.
Libertarian governments have authority, but it's very small and limited. You can
And it
still
can-
have rule of law.
Okay,
It just doesn't have to be a giant machine that controls your life.
Why does it even have any power? Why not be an anarcho-capitalist? Which is why I would respect Casimir more than what you say.
I also like Michael Malice, but
Yeah,
he's not practical in real life terms.
I know something Casimir and Michael Malice have in common.
What's that?
Casimir.
Haircut?
Blair White?
No.
Oh, what? Oh, they're big.
A hatred of communists?
Thank you, Posh. Sorry, I was late. Okay, wait, let's do this. Let's have Adam.
Greetings, Adam. Welcome to.
We're at each
Area.
other. You are not a libertarian, and not even a conservatarian. One of the key questions you should ask, and one of the key definitions you should talk about, is what is aggression? Now, it's not just being angry, which is the colloquial modern meaning. If you open up the dictionary of 1828 of Webster's, you will find the original definition, which is very important. The first attack, the act of hostility, the first act of injury, or the first act leading to a war or controversy. When we use the word aggression, we mean the initiation of something, not just acting angry or acting belligerent. And so when you say authoritarianism is antithetical to libertarianism, it's not. You can be the king of your own castle as long as you obtain it through original appropriation and bordering, trade, or by conquering somebody who attacked you first. So those are the three ways that you can gain.
I prefer to do it
land
through
titles.
trade, but if that's my only option, I guess.
No, you
we
have
can
those
fight.
three options. Obviously, you prefer to do it through trade. And then once you have control over that territory, you can implement all laws against degeneracy. And if you're smart about it, you will not put the place where your children are being educated and where they spend most of their time, you wouldn't put it on the border of your property. And you would surround yourself with an alliance of other property owners. Maybe you will join into a covenant where your children will be somewhere closer to the core so that you can shield them from the degenerate world. which is not just a theory. The Amish are doing it in practice. They don't position their schools exposed to other people's property if they can avoid it.
But they still
And who
bang their children. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to ask, and who is the keeper of your children? Is it Jim Bob's authoritarian government or Phi's libertarian government?
I don't think you heard me.
Under Casimir's view, by the way, it could be now we don't fully agree with Casimir, but for the sake of argumentation, Casimir, what he just laid out, could very well be a covenant of Orthodox Christians who establish this society and make it the way they want it. Now, we would argue, just in principle, it would be inconsistent with certain libertarian impulses, like, I don't know, public masturbation. But the thing is, what Casimir's pointing out is that in that instance, it is actually ruled by the Christian, so my authority in that instance.
A public masturbator in an Amish town would be just evicted.
Yeah.
Now
right.
they don't do anything meriting enslaving them, but the proportional response would be to lead them out. And if they try to resist, then escalation can begin.
That's actually a useful form of voting, is shaming your neighbors out of the community. But
no, you're not shaming them.
I wouldn't support you
walking them
tying
out.
a rope around their neck and dragging them out of the community, because that's a bit excessive use of force, and that's why I'm a libertarian.
Dude, how many times do people get escorted out of a bar and there's no physical confrontation?
I don't know. I don't frequent bars.
I'm just saying.
In an Irish bar.
I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying. You just took it to the extreme. Casimir's explaining that you can just escort people out, and if they resist, it becomes violent. But you're actually telling them through the threat of force, that they have to leave. From your view, whether you tie a rope around their neck or their ankles, or you just use the threat of force, what I'm really wondering is, the way Casimir described it, is that inconsistent with your view of libertarianism?
The most consistent view with mine is, again, if the private owner of the land wants you off the property, then so be it. And even if he has to use force, that's up to him.
Okay. Okay. This is a collective.
It's not the government
I'm asking you, this covenant has their own government, a body of people. There's the arm of the government. There's the way it operates. It's hierarchical. However they organize it is irrelevant. I'm asking you, in Casimir's example of someone being forcefully removed, whether it's physical or coercive, and that means if you don't move, we're going to physically move you. So we ask you to kindly make your way out of the covenant. We're asking you, is that consistent under your view of libertarianism?
Sure, as long as you and all the private owners of the land agree to those terms.
No, let's say it's a collective. So suddenly, if the covenant splits up the ownership of the covenant community and every parcel in it, the same activity is wrong.
Guys, I hate to break this to you, but
so you want
corporations are privately owned.
Dude,
you can be a group and still privately own
can't.
stuff.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
No, you actually can't.
The
You don't have
CIA.
to. But what would happen is, if you want to enter into a strong covenant, you can word it the following way. If you decide to break the rules that were established in a territory, you lose ownership. It gets transferred to the next person on the list. So you could end up in a situation where if people decide that they no longer want to live there, and that violates the rule that's established. They, for example, want to live where people can, publicly masturbate, and they act towards their desire in any capacity. The rule says that the title to their property gets transferred to the next person on the list, which could end up being just one person. And so you could have a title transfer that's conditional, and meaning you never get the complete ownership or unconditional ownership of your land back once you enter it. As long as it's a conditional title transfer, quite a few things are possible.
Hey, I have a question for you guys. Both of you libertarians. This guy made a comment about public masturbating. In both of your libertarian ideal societies, isn't there just no such thing as a public masturbator?
Depends on how you define public.
I mean, under your ideal society, there is no public. It can't be the case.
In my
let's say-
ideal society, there would be no public property, period.
That's what I'm
We're
saying.
privately owned. We're equivocating around words. Public
I'm
is
asking- I
as in
understand.
exposed to other people, any other people, or public is in on public property.
I'm
There's no
saying-
public property
I
in my
understand,
world,
but
yes.
Casimir, if let's say every square inch of a grid is privately owned, right? But you still have access to sight lines, a variety of sight lines. Does that make sense? It's all public. It's all privately owned. Every square inch is owned privately. That means anybody who's standing on a parcel to the smallest inch is standing on a privately owned section, right, of a parcel. I'm saying under that view, under that view,
Right.
you couldn't really call someone a public masturbator, right?
Do you want me to save some time and cut to the chase for you, Jim?
No, I
dude.
don't want to say.
I'm so tired of you not answering my questions.
No,
Casimir,
the answer would be that obviously that would not be a public. That would be a private.
Private masturbator.
Private masturbator. There is a point though. There's something you're
Facing what you
missing.
call the private, right? That's why I'm saying Posh giggled before because I said, oh, dude, you're publicly masturbating. The guy says, no, it's on private property. And you go, well, yeah, but you're facing the public. And you have to say, no, you're facing the private. Private's facing private, right?
I think
There's
this
no
is a
way
word
around
game.
this, right?
What's important
No, it's not.
is
It's not a word game.
there's a principle you're missing here, which is you're creating a scenario. This is how you attack libertarians. It's legitimate. They have to have an answer. Your attack is
Right.
basically of this form. What if you're stuck in the middle of the winter? You don't have a home. You don't have food. You didn't prepare for the winter. You didn't do anything to facilitate your survival. Now, how will you live your life? And the obvious answer is a very unpopular. You won't. You'll starve. You'll die because the situation is baseline horrible. The question is, why didn't you prepare? Why didn't you build
Casimir,
a
this
covenant
is,
community?
I'm sorry. I understand what's possible. I'm saying a different question here, Casimir. I really want to get to the core of this.
The question.
What the question is, okay, here's a better question. Casimir, in your ideal society where everything's owned privately, is there still a term public? And I'm asking what it's referring to. How about that?
Sure.
What is it?
It is referring to not as a type of property, but let's say
It's an intangible,
level,
right?
Like a concert
level
hall.
of exposure to others, level of involvement of
Yeah,
others.
yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering because it sounds like if everything was owned privately, the concept of public would be this sort of amalgamation of something that you couldn't reduce to a single part. If it's line of view, line of sight, visuals,
Just like it is right now, no?
Yeah, but the thing is, we have a concept of the public, which is why we have the concept of public indecency. That is to say, let's say all of the material, buildings and land is owned privately. You don't own the humans, but the humans you're referring to are the public, right?
We can use those words that way.
Other
but it would be
eyeballs.
like a new meaning of the words, and I agree that the words have multiple meanings. That's
I'm
a different
saying,
meaning.
I understand,
Sure.
Casimir.
But
I'm
what's
asking.
the important question here? The important question is that you're trying to present society as
Your society.
as something that is, if it's purely private, without any covenant built on top.
Is there
that
anything
that
called the
causes
public?
chaos.
I'm saying in your society that's purely
Why is that a
private.
question important? I answered it already. I asked and answered.
You said, it sounds like you said the public is basically the eyeballs of people, what they're capable of seeing.
Okay, let me try to.
Yeah, that's what we what we call a public square versus a private
So,
square. The public square is exposed to multiple, let's say, households.
It's funny, Justin.
Why
No
are we talking
libertarian
about
mods.
this?
Okay, Posh, maybe you can run it through and see what
Right.
I was trying to use your own version. I don't care.
So, Casimir, you basically said that a public would not be an ownership category. It would be in terms of exposure, and I gave the example of a concert hall, right, or whatever type of cleared land where people gather for, fairs. I almost said state fairs, which would be funny. But, you have all sorts of public manifestations that take place. However, the public, in terms of ownership, if we say public masturbation, would be something like someone rents out a billboard rents out a concert hall and billboards that project these people in the concert hall doing just massive orgies or whatever. They're all masturbating. They're pure libertarians. They don't even have sex.
Yeah, I reject all of that. That's the winter scenario again.
The winter scenario.
Yeah, the winter scenario is, again, you're describing what if things were broken down and how do you deal with that? Or like you're trying to say, what if we didn't prepare, we didn't establish all the laws, but we just have complete chaos?
Oh, that's like the cricket.
You're implying that anarchy must result in chaos necessarily. Well, I'm trying to show you how if you build an order based on private property, that would still be order. It would not be chaos.
I understand, but Posh, let's take, dude, just how about this? The outside of a concert hall. Okay, you have all these buildings, you have the road, whatever. All of the buildings can't take up all the same exact footprint, right? So they have to be not identical to each other. Now, listen, if there is a line of sight between objects in space, because it sounds like really getting down to it, we're talking about basically the accessibility of visuals, and that's all we're really talking about at this point. So Posh mentioned inside the building, or it's projected on. What if everybody owns something and privately they project pornography on the buildings, right? I'm asking you, if that's exposed to everybody, including other private, right? In this example, in the libertarian view, the public is merely the eyeballs of the people walking through and around this private property, right? But nobody has ownership over line of sight. So the question is,
one moment, why not? One moment. That's
okay, great. No, this is great. This is a trap, by the way, because if you own line of sight, the only pure libertarian not degenerate society is one that's a virtual reality where everyone sees different things.
It's an abstract.
It's not. This is, again, ownership and contract.
Line of sight.
In our principle, contract is not a promise. It is a title transfer. Meaning, for example, if you have if you build a Christian covenant and you have baseline all the Christian laws that you would want, well, let's say most of them for now. We'll look at we'll try to find the exception. But you have a law against public displays of nudity. Against broadcasting of nudity, against broadcasting of degeneracy of any form. And then somebody says, well, I want to own a home within that covenant, within that territory. That person would not have the full ownership of it the way this person who we just spoke to talks about it. He would have conditional ownership, meaning as long as he adheres to the covenant, the property belongs to him. As soon as he breaks the covenant, then he would not be the owner, meaning he can be evicted.
Okay, so I feel like this is similar to how when we debate evolution, they say, oh, populations evolve, not individuals. What you're talking about is, okay, how would one change the covenant? Or would it be like it was established at this point and the rest of you deal with it?
That's funny.
So
how would you amend it?
So, for example, you could... This is an open-ended question within my world because you can decide.
Dude, totally, Jack. Totally. Let me. Okay, this is a complex question. I'm sorry to interrupt, but my question was about line of sight. How do you legislate it? I said the logical end is virtual reality in the sense. Jack Power says more physically. It would be, the irony is that libertarians would have to build walls around their private property, right? Or private people would have to build walls who didn't want to see other things. And so what you have is basically a walled-in society of walls upon walls to stop people from seeing horrific things that
libertarianism is a psyop by Home
like
Depot,
local rules that say
Lone tiefling.
you can't do this or that. But the
No,
but
I'm saying-
the
You're right,
extent
Doug.
of those rules is what matters. Those rules,
Okay,
for example,
Casimir, I
what
understand
Posh
that.
asked me is an important question, and you don't want me to answer it.
No, I understand. I'm trying to steal man. Because I asked the first question and it was
Sure,
It was,
I'm trying to
avoided.
answer that as well.
I understand. So the line that's what interests me is the line of sight. I understand from your view.
This
can
is what
get a
I'm trying to
covenant-
explain to you. So
I understand.
So
No, I'm not talking. I know, but I know where
what
you're
does
going.
the contract say?
I understand you're going into the covenant community. I'm talking about outside, facing the rest of the private places. I'm just saying, is it true
Yes,
that your
facing-
answer is what Jack said?
No,
is
absolutely.
Just building.
Wait,
building.
so I'm making
Is
a
that it?
concession.
Is that the answer?
Outside the covenant community, optimally, you would want all the walls and isolations that you can. I mean, why not?
Right. So pure isolated society.
If you want to block all degeneracy and all threats of it, now I don't imagine it that way. I don't think that is the best strategy. I think that you have like a more gradual increase in privacy towards the core. You can have, for example, a person like you that can show up on the internet and engage with degeneracy directly. You could live on the periphery and be just fine, but you wouldn't show your children on the periphery, so your children would be shielded inside the core of your community where they're not exposed to non-Christian degenerate ideas until they're adults. So I can imagine communities working the same way. You could have a trade hub where you allow just anyone to enter.
So it sounds like
baseline.
you're saying there was the solution, the remedy to libertarianism is a freestanding covenant community that rejects libertarianism. Right?
No, it rejects libertine
libertarianism.
behavior, which is
I got it. I'm saying
libertarian.
That contract community is the phrase, right?
You can use it the contract community or covenant community, sure.
Okay, covenant. That's why it sounded strange to me. We agree on a covenant. Okay, we have children. Our children have children. Our children's children have children. Are they bound by it?